how excited we are that this show is coming back to Melbourne. I had the chance to see this show the first time that you did it, and it was an absolutely amazing show, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you so much. It's really exciting to be able to kind of go back to something so special and bigger and more improved as well. So the show that you saw, it would have been like 5 years ago now, was in Chapel Street, and it was a really nice, intimate close-up show. It was only 20 people a night, whereas this one is sort of the big grown-up version of it. So the audience is nearly 100 people, and it's the bigger, crazier, more magical version of the show. So I can't wait to show it to you and everyone else as well.
So Josh, why is this show so special to you? You just mentioned that it's one of the most special shows that you've done. What makes this show so special to you?
Yeah, so I don't want to give away too much, but as the title implies, Conjurer at the card table is not just the name of a show, but it's also a very particular person. And it's also actually a book that a lot of magicians might be familiar with. And the show is really about exploring how magicians learn their skills and more specifically, what those skills are. I think it's fun to go see a magic show and be totally fooled, but I also think a lot of people want to find out, a little bit behind the curtain. They want to break some of the rules and sort of understand what kind of skills and techniques and practices required to pull off something like a magic show. So this show is about exploring the skills and the techniques that I'm passionate about, and more specifically where I've learned them from. And the Conjurer at the card table was the beginning of that journey for me.
So Josh, for those that haven't heard you on our show before, tell us a little bit about where your journey first started when it comes to magic and illusion.
Yeah, so I actually wasn't the first magician in my family. My brother was the first person to get interested in magic. Now, he never did it professionally, only as a child, but obviously he's a few years older than me. He got the magic bug first, and we used to go visit Bernard's magic shop. So if there's anyone listening who might be a little bit older than me or the same age, you'll remember it, because sadly it doesn't exist anymore. And in the school holidays, my mum would used to take me and my brother in there, and the store was divided into two sections. There was the magic section, which was for the serious conjurer, and there was kind of like the joke section for the less interested person. So my brother would drift off to the Conjurer section. I would head to the joke section. We'd get a few things each for the holidays and head home. Eventually, my brother grew out of it, and he moved on to other things, and I sort of got his hand-me-downs, as brothers do, and I never left it. And it sort of transformed from just a fun school holiday hobby into something I entertained myself with after school, to then a full-blown passion and now career as well. And as part of that journey, I accumulated dozens and into hundreds, into probably thousands of hours worth of books and DVDs and lectures and notes and all that kind of stuff that teaches magicians their skills of their craft, essentially. And that's what this show is really looking back at, all these different things that I've collected. So as part of the set of the show, I've actually gone to my archive and pulled out some of my very first magic books, some of my oldest props, and all that kind of stuff. And it kind of is a little bit of a show in dedication to my pathway to becoming a professional.
And in your bid to learn more and to collect more, you've been right around the world, haven't you?
I have been in the times before COVID.
Yep.
It seems like a completely different life, but I was lucky enough to travel around the world and meet some of the very best magicians to ever live. And in part thanks to the Melbourne Magic Festival. So we used to have international guests come and join us at the festival, and they were, often very available to come look at other people's shows, and I was lucky enough to make friends with a few of them after they came and saw my work, and then go out to places like Las Vegas and South America and New York and all these different places and visit them and sort of continue the journey, because I think no matter how good you are, whether you're just starting off or whether you're Dan Copperfield, there's always more you can learn, and I think magic is one of those really special hobbies and one of those special arts where everyone is really interested in sharing. So I've been really fortunate to be, under the learning tree of some of the absolute best.
Where's been the most interesting place that you've ever been to for when you've been searching for learning more or picking up props and things like that?
Yes, I think there's probably two that stand out, and there's one that the public would instantly recognize, and it would be Las Vegas, which is kind of like the public face of magic. If you want to go see the biggest names in the world, then you have to go see Las Vegas. That's where David Copperfield is. That's where Chris Angel is. That's where David Blaine will be later in the year. That's where Penn and Teller are for most of the year, unless they're in Australia as they are right now. But for magicians, the real secret place to visit is in Los Angeles at a place called the Magic Castle, which is a members-only magic club. So the only way you can possibly get in is if you're a magician member who has gone through rigorous sort of testing procedures, or if you know a magician member. And when you get in there, there is non-stop magic shows of every variety, from mind reading to seances to close-up card tricks to grand illusions. There are lectures, there's different areas to practice magic, and it's this like little old-fashioned castle. But when you go inside, a bookcase opens up and you go through a secret passageway, and almost like a TARDIS from Doctor Who, this tiny little castle opens up into this gigantic multi-level magic mansion.
Wow. So tell us a little bit about being able to go there. Are you a member, or did you get in with a member?
So I am actually a member. I'm one of the very few Australian members. So before COVID, I used to visit there a few times a year and go in, and essentially there's a rotating list of magicians. So every week there's about 13 different magicians filling all the different showrooms and all the different schedules. And each basically half part of the night, it'll switch over. So there'll be the early performers, and then there'll be the late performers, and it's a different set of people. And then within those two categories, there'll be the close-up room, there'll be, it's called the parlor prestigitation, so it's like the medium-sized room, then there's sort of the larger stage of room, and then there's some smaller like rooms for seances and talking to ghosts and mind reading, and you'll be able to see shows from literally the best magicians in the world. And it's such an intimate venue, because even the biggest rooms might only hold 50 or 60 people, because this is sort of a very secret, special venue.
Wow.
And then down to the smallest rooms that are like 15 people, so you're literally inches away from, you know, some of the very best card magicians, sleight of hand artists, card sharks. And this does attract literally everyone, from people who have robbed millions of dollars from casinos before become a little bit more of a legal job as a magician, to people like Chris Angel and David Copperfield perform in these venues as well.
Wow, that is absolutely amazing. Josh, I have to ask as well, you've mentioned a couple of times about how it's felt like there was a whole different life for you pre-COVID. How did you spend the last couple of years? Because, of course, you couldn't do shows or anything like that. So how did you spend the last couple of years?
Yeah, I couldn't do much initially. I think basically all of magic just stood still for a little while. You know, obviously all our gigs were cancelled, and there was no sort of end in sight. So it was kind of hard to say, I'm going to start working on this show, but I'm going to be able to do it at this point. But eventually we just started practicing, working on new material, and then some of us started developing online shows, which was a real unique experience and very challenging. But essentially, we sat down in our lounge room or in a kitchen, or maybe some of us might have had a theatre. I converted my lounge room into a theatre, and got on Zoom and performed magic for people over Zoom or over the internet into their homes. So other people would sit in front of their computer and would do a ticketed magic show, just like what you're going to see at the Melbourne Magic Festival. But instead of people buying a ticket to come sit in the Arrow on Swanson in person, they would sit in their lounge room, open up their special link that I would send them, and they would see an hour magic show done virtually. And the special thing about it was that the magic would happen to them in their own hands, in their own house, with me being, in some cases, thousands of kilometres away. So that was how I spent most of my time over the sort of the 2 or 3 COVID years, designing, developing, and then performing Zoom shows. So that was a really unique experience, something I never thought I would ever do in my life. I'm sure most people didn't. But it also was such a cool experience, because it forced me to look into a completely new world and develop material that didn't exist previously to that. And I think magic was really on the precipice of that kind of idea, because I didn't see a tremendous amount of sort of innovation from other art forms. And magic kind of just, we all unionized around the world at once and started developing techniques, strategies, technology, all these different things to perform magic virtually, and it was amazing.
Definitely. And now, of course, we've had the Adelaide Fringe, and you've had the Melbourne Comedy Festival, and now you've got the Magic Festival coming up. How does it feel to be back out there and performing in front of live crowds again?
It's so exciting. It was a weird feeling coming back out there at the Adelaide Fringe Festival and the Comedy Festival, and actually having real people to interact with. And it was very exciting, and now I'm so excited to be back at the Melbourne Magic Festival, doing one of my biggest shows ever. Now that COVID sort of officially over, there's no more restrictions on how many people can come into a theatre. I'm really excited to do a proper big show. Last year I was only able to have 40 people with a little bit of distancing in a room, whereas this time, like I said, I can have nearly 100 people packed into the theatre, and everyone gets to enjoy the magic as close as possible. Lots of interaction and people coming up on stage and touching props and handling things, and it's really exciting to kind of be back in that world, because I think that's where magic really thrives.
Definitely. Well, I know that we've got a lot of listeners who are very, very excited about being able to head along to your show. So all of the details are up on our website for how people can head along and see you at the Magic Festival. And for people that are listening on the podcast, all of those details are directly below where you downloaded this podcast from. Josh, what would you like to say to people out there who are thinking about heading along and seeing your show at the Magic Festival?
Well, I really do hope I get to see you, and I get to tell you a little bit more about the sort of mysterious story I've been alluding to. If you are interested in coming along, when you buy your ticket, if you use the code word MAGIC, as in MAGIC, all in capitals, then you'll get 30% off just for the people listening right now. But tickets do sell out every year, so if you're considering coming along, then I would not waste time, because the show starts in almost 1 week, and there probably won't be tickets left